On your Wednesday edition of Locked On NHL, Alex Ovechkin inches closer to Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goals record. The Eastern Conference playoff race is tighter than ever, with a number of teams streaking towards the final spots and question marks surrounding some top players ahead of the Four Nations tournament.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome inside this Wednesday, February 5th edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. I'm Ross Levitan. You can find me 5 days a week over at Locked On Ottawa Senators. With me, as always, it's the Battle of Ontario edition from Locked On Maple Leafs. It's Mike DiStefano, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. What a week it's been in the National Hockey League, from the New York Islanders winning 8 of their last 9, the Detroit Red Wings on a 7-game win streak. Ottawa's win streak of 5 games came to an end last night abruptly in Tampa Bay. We'll get into those questions and those teams and who's rising and who's maybe on the outside looking in now of the Eastern playoff picture. The Four Nations, wow. Zach Werenski missing games. Quinn Hughes missing games. What does that mean ahead of this incredible tournament with all the NHL's best players? We'll finish up the show with that. But Mike, everyone is watching the Alex Ovechkin goal chase, and now he's got goals in back-to-back-to-back games.
Yeah, and it seems to be coming in the same way as each and every game seems to be a little empty netter to get him that much closer. It feels like the hockey world is getting upset over this, though, and I don't know why. Like, I don't care. I don't want the last goal to be an empty netter. Obviously, the last goal's got to be on the power play in his office, one-timer from his knee. That's how, that's poetic justice. But, like, he's at a point in his career, and there's been so much missed time. He's got to make up for some lost time, especially earlier in the season when he missed, a month or so, 6 weeks or so with that foot injury. I don't care if he's scoring goals in an empty net. I just want to score goals, and then let's break this record at some point this year. If it gets him any closer by doing it in empty nets, I really do not care.
You know that he does lead the NHL history books in most empty net goals already.
Cool. I don't care. Pretty soon he's going to lead the history books in goals, and that's all I'm going to care about.
It's kind of funny because if you go from the top 5, I like those stats where it's like a big cluster of players and then 2 just kind of all on their own world. So it starts like Zach Parise has 30, Blake Wheeler, Sebastian Aho with 31, Iginla 32, Lemieux 33, Eric Stahl 33, Sidney Crosby 36, Brad Marchand 38, Marian Hossa 40. And then it's 56 for Wayne Gretzky and 63 for Alex Ovechkin. But I'm with you, man. It's one of those where as long as he's out there at the end of the game means his coach is trusting him when the team's up a goal to shut things down. So at 39 years old, a lot of coaches wouldn't have confidence putting a 39-year-old out there.
Well, and credit to the Capitals for having such an unbelievable season, one that no one really saw coming, let's be honest. I mean, this is a team that teetered on the playoffs last year, just snuck in on like the last couple hours of the NHL season, and then they got crunched in the first round. They're the top team in the East this year, like one of the best teams in hockey, and they keep winning games, and it's because they're leading in games that they're allowing Ovechkin to tally up all these empty net goals this year. So, good on the team for having a great season and always just taking advantage of what's being given to him. I got no problem with that. As long as he breaks the record this year, that's all I care.
And you're seeing even in Road Barnes, he was in Ottawa a week and a half ago and he scored, and it was a goal to tie the game in the third period. And he still got a bit of an ovation from the crowd. We're at that point in the run. Like, you are witnessing history if you get to watch Alex Ovechkin score a goal right now.
Yeah, it was like when Ohtani was, swipe and bag 47, 48, hit home run 46 on the year. And it's like, we're getting close, man. We're getting close to that 50-50 club. And that was a massive deal when it happened. And it's going to be obviously like, this is probably the biggest record left to break. Because I don't think Gretzky's points record will ever be broken. The goals record has to be the next best one to break of all time, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Do you think anyone gets to the all-time NHL assist record
No.
that Wayne Gretzky has?
I don't. No.
Yeah, I guess he has more
assists than anyone else has points. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
The craziest stat of all time is if Wayne Gretzky, who scored more goals than anyone else on the planet, never scored a single goal, he still would have more points, more assists than anyone has points in NHL history. It's just an absurd stat.
Yeah, that really is. Sidney Crosby's the only active player with more than 1,000 assists. He's at 1,045. Other than that, it's Patrick Kane with 832. So yeah, nobody's even in the same universe as that one. You don't think a goalie's going to beat Glenn Hall's record of 503 straight starts?
Nope. I definitely don't. 503 straight starts?
Yeah, dude.
That is insanity. No, that'll never happen. Do you think we'll ever see a goalie make 70 starts in a season ever again?
Sorry, 502. I gave him one extra there.
Well, that's less impressive. That's less impressive. 502.
Do you want to know some stats from there? He played every game without a helmet.
Lunacy, dude. When did he play? Like 50s, 60s?
Yeah, the streak started and finished every playoff game as well for 2 years. The streak it came to an end in 1962. So late 50s, early 90s.
Wow. Early 60s, yeah. Wow. Quite an era to be playing into. That was a hard-nosed era.
Yeah, he had back problems. That's why he left.
Yeah, well, he put the team on his back for 502 straight games. I would too at that point. Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's one of those untouchable records as well, I would think.
Including the playoffs, Glenn Hall started 552 straight games.
Crazy. Absolutely insane.
That's awesome.
Do you think we'll ever see a 70-star goalie again in the NHL?
No. Never. There's too much sports science. It's like the nerds are ruining baseball with stats. Well, the analytics guys will not allow a goalie to play 70 games. What's the closest that anyone's gotten? It's got to be Hellebuck.
60s, like low to mid 60s. You know, we've gotten close. I mean, Roberto Luongo, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, the last goalie to start more than 70 games in a season was Cam Talbot in 2016-17 with Edmonton.
He started more than 70 games?
73 games that year. Had a .919 save percentage and 7 shutouts.
Pretty good year for Cammy Talbot. Wow. Where was that in Ottawa?
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Well, no, that was the year Ottawa had. I think Mike Condon made 26 straight starts for Ottawa that year.
Sure.
That's our Glenn Hall, buddy. That's our Glenn Hall.
Oh, boy. I believe Freddie Anderson was the goalie at that point. I want to say for Toronto. Yeah.
That was the year Curtis McElhinney got you guys in the playoffs, though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Game 82.
Played him off waivers, got us in.
Yeah. Well, hey, for Mike Condon was traded for a 5th-round pick, and he got us in. Unreal. But yeah, it seems like the 70-game goalie died in 2017, but was extinct after. There was in 2011, 2012, the year before the shortened season with the lockout, there were 3 goalies with 70 or more starts that year. Mika Kiprusoff, Jonas Hiller, and Pekka Rinne. All played more than 70 games. But after that, it's just been done twice. Braden Holtby in 2014-15, Jonathan Quick in 2014-15, and Tuukka Rask in 2014-15. So kind of strange that out of the 7 times it's happened in the last decade, only one of them, 2 of them, 3 years, and 3 in each of 2. That's way off track, but I do love the history books. When we're talking about Alex Ovechkin, makes sense that would happen. But it wasn't just Alex Ovechkin that was doing the goal scoring last night in a 6-3 win for Washington over the Florida Panthers. Dan Holme from Locked On Capitals has more on that game.
The Capitals get back in the win column as they down the Florida Panthers by a score of 6-3. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, oftentimes when you think of a team and who scores goals, oftentimes you think of the top 6. Well, in this game, the Capitals' bottom six showed up big, putting up 3 goals. Nick Dowd, in particular, had a 3-point night. It also saw the end of a goal drought by Andrew Mangiapane and Lars Eller as well. Special teams was a bit concerning as the power play struggled, but the PK was huge, actually putting up a short-handed goal. Alex Ovechkin is now 17 goals away from Gretzky. So a big thing for the Capitals, and a big stat about this team as well, as they have not lost more than 2 games in a row all season. I'll have much more on this for you later on Locked On Caps.
And that's pretty impressive. I actually didn't know that.
Stat. It's a good stat.
A great stat from our guy Dan Holme. You can check him out at Locked On Capitals for more. I mean, Washington, they're just one of the best stories. We've talked about Spencer Carberry. You know him from his time as an assistant with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he is, I believe, still on our friends over at FanDuel, minus 650 to win the Jack Adams.
Yeah, and I would say right now he's definitely the front runner for that award, but there's a lot of coaches that are getting some consideration. You know, I've been taking a look over on FanDuel, and I've been seeing a lot of movement in that market. Carberry's been at the top for quite some time now, but like your boy in your neck of the woods, Scott Arniel, he had a nice little run up at the top. I think he's down to like plus 2,000 or something like that. Like he's not even in consideration.
Good value. If they win the President's Trophy, he has to be considered. He has to be a finalist.
I was having this chat with my boy Dave Morisuti on Locked On Leafs the other day because we were kind of talking about this exact topic with Carberry. But when it comes to Arniel, like realistically, how many President's Trophy winning teams end up also winning Coach of the Year? Not a lot. If you think about it, like it rarely goes to the best team's head coach. Rarely does it ever.
The only time I can think of recently would have been Jim Montgomery, or was that the year? No, that was the year they set the record.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? Jim Montgomery would have gotten that, I guess, that year. You win, was it 64 games? Yeah, you probably deserve it at that point. But like John Cooper never wins it. Joe Quenneville never won it back in the day when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks and they were winning Stanley Cups, right? Alain Vigneault, those years that they were in Vancouver, rarely won. You know, Mike Sullivan when they were winning, like it just rarely do you see it. It's always the teams that come out of nowhere that kind of, you know, they have a good season but never win the President's Trophy. So I'll be curious, but they're not far off from the President's Trophy right now, and he's what, like 6th, 7th in odds. So I don't know. I don't know if that really would do it.
Yeah, not far off. I mean, they're first place in the league. They've won 7 in a row.
There you go. So they actually are the leading contenders for the President's Trophy, and still his odds are like minus 2,000. So.
Now, Washington Capitals fans are going to point out that the Caps have played 2 less games, so they have a higher points percentage.
Yeah.
But you know what? Winnipeg just won in Washington, so that to me will be the tiebreaker for now.
Well, and winning in the Eastern Conference these days, a lot more tougher than winning in the Western Conference.
And we will discuss that next. This is Locked On NHL, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing you can place a $5 bet, potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59.
Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we have local experts on the biggest stories. And wow, What a year it's been in the Eastern Conference. All the typical contenders are still right in the mix. You've got Florida and Toronto atop the Atlantic Division. You still have the Washington Capitals, Carolina Hurricanes, and New Jersey Devils in the Metro Division. But third in the Atlantic, the two wildcard teams, and all the clump. It's really five right now. Now Montreal could make it back into the race easily, but they're 5 points out right now. I just cannot believe the streaks that we've been seeing recently in the Eastern Conference. Before we get into all of them, let's hear from Locked On Islanders host Gil Martin, who just watched the Islanders win their 8th game out of their last 9.
Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. Islanders hold on for a 2-1 win over the Vegas Golden Knights. The big story, Ilya Sorokin with a 34-save effort in the game that the Islanders were outshot and, outplayed for long stretches of it. But here is an important thing that the New York Islanders did better in this game. Clear the puck out of their zone. They made smarter moves. It's an improvement that has been a big part of their recent resurgence, not turning the puck over, not spending 60, 90 seconds at a time in your own zone, and then the great goaltending by Ilya Sorokin and just enough timely scoring to get the win, and a win without Matthew Barzal in the lineup. For more in-depth daily coverage of your New York Islanders, check out the Locked On Islanders podcast every Monday through Friday.
A very familiar voice on the Locked On NHL podcast. That's Gil Martin, and they were a team in seemingly complete disarray for a little while there. They just could not score goals, but then all of a sudden they've woken up. They've scored more than 2 goals in 8 of their last 9 games. Ironically, the one they didn't last night against Vegas, and that's a big boy win in Vegas.
No, absolutely it is. You go out on the road
at home.
Okay, you win that game though against Vegas. I mean, that's a powerhouse team, and that's a big W for New York. It makes it feel like what's going on there is real and not just a mirage, not just a streak. And as Gil noted, a big reason for what's going on on the island right now is the goaltender, Ilya Sorokin. He's getting back to that top 3 goalie status that he held a few years back. It's been an inconsistent couple years, but you look at his numbers since the turn of the calendar. His last 11 games in the year 2025, he's 9-2 with a .942 save percentage. Your goalie gives you that type of effort, a .942 save percentage, 3 shutouts in that time span as well. You're going to win a lot of hockey games, and that's really what we got going right now for the New York Islanders. And it's funny, man. You look at the East, the teams that are right now battling for those final couple of wild card spots and that third spot in the Atlantic Division, the Senators, the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets, the Islanders, the Canadiens, the Rangers, all of these teams we've talked about being down and out. Like, this team's out of it. They're completely done at points of the year, and they all just continue to battle and put themselves back into playoff contention. And the Islanders and what Patrick Roy has been able to get out of this club has been special the last month or so.
Special is one way to put it, but lucky is another. They've gotten great goaltending, and last night they get a 2-1 win where they had 14 shots on goal versus 34 the other way. They're not going to sustain this great run if they're getting 14 shots on goal per game. Now, they've got 2 games left before the Four Nations break, at Winnipeg, and then on a second half of back-to-back at Minnesota. They win one of those games, though, they're right back in the mix.
That's what you're claiming. They got to win one to be back in the mix.
Got to win one. Otherwise, you're looking at likely being 5 points out at the break.
Which isn't...
It's not impossible. Everyone in the East is winning, though. Everybody's winning. Ottawa just went 5-1 and lost ground.
Yeah, because Detroit's won 7 in a row. Like, they're the hottest team in hockey right now. Like, since Tom McClellan took over this team, they're literally the hottest team in hockey. They're 15-4-1 or something like that since McClellan took over. Like, they've been unbelievable, picking up points left, right, and center. They've won 7 in a row, and now are currently in a playoff spot. And it's a team, again, a month ago around Christmas, we sat here saying Detroit dead in the water. We thought maybe this was the year that they get, figure it all out, but they haven't. I wonder, is Patrick Kane going to be available at the trade deadline? Now all of a sudden they're in a playoff spot a month later. It's crazy, the amount of movement we've seen from this just this jumble of like 6 teams in the Eastern Conference. And on the outside looking in, a couple of really interesting teams to me here. The Boston Bruins, currently out of a playoff spot, 55 games into their season. And another team that's teetering on being out of a spot, the Tampa Bay Lightning. How surprising is that, Ross?
Yeah, it's super surprising. They looked half decent last night. Ottawa, we don't use the word scheduled loss after Pilsy threw that out when Ottawa went into Carolina and they shut them out 3-0. So we're not allowed to use that word on the show anymore. But 3 games in 4 nights in 3 different cities, that's a tough game to win for the Sens yesterday, and they still made it a 1-goal game. Vasilevsky had some timely saves. He's the one guy where it's like, they can be down and out, but if he's kicking them, they're still going to be a tough team to beat. And you got to beat the best and the guys who have been on the throne for a number of years before you can look down at them and laugh. So I'm not doing that just yet. They've got games in hand on everybody, but they've got Ottawa tomorrow night and Detroit on Saturday before 4 Nations. Like 2 divisional games. They're struggling against the division. They obviously got the win last night. That makes them 4-9-1. Against the Atlantic Division this year.
Wow.
So they're going to need to turn that around if they want to get back to where they want to be. As John Cooper said after the game last night, they're not happy with where they're at. They did have Nick Paul injured mid-game yesterday. Anthony Cirelli came back but left for a while. Ottawa's dealing with injuries down the middle right now with Josh Norris and Shane Pinto, both expected to be out beyond the 4 Nations break. It's a battle of will right now, and it almost feels like if your team like Ottawa, like Detroit, you haven't made the playoffs in a while, well, you got 28 playoff games coming up because that's the level of intensity in the Eastern Conference right now. You need to win games to even be close.
Yeah.
What did we say? 9 teams in the East that have won at least 5 games out of their last 10 and have a 60% win points percentage?
Yeah.
That's outrageous. There's only 3 in the Western Conference with that amount.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of the 16 teams in the East have won at least 500 or more games. Like they are over 500. 12 of the last 16 over 500 in their last 10 games. So yeah, the East is a gauntlet right now, man. An absolute gauntlet. It's February 5th though, Ross. Who makes the playoffs? Who grabs those final 2 spots if you had to put a little wager on it over on FanDuel?
Well, it's 3 spots really, right? Because third in the Atlantic. The third in the Atlantic is completely up for grabs. Like, there's no part of me that's like, oh yeah, wrap it up. Ottawa's in the playoff. No chance, dude.
You shouldn't. You
no
specifically.
Chance.
Yeah. All right. 3 teams. You got 3 teams that you can put in the playoffs right now that are in the mix. I would say it's Ottawa, Detroit, Tampa, Boston, Columbus, the Islanders, the Canadians. You got to think the Rangers are still in it. They've only played 52 games. I mean, they're still, games in hand, and they've got 54 points in those games, and they just made a trade for JT Miller. So they're still in it, in my opinion. So I would say between those teams, that's about 7 clubs, 3 spots. Who you think sneaks in?
I'm not going to be fooled by the Detroit Red Wings just yet. They also have the strongest strength of schedule remaining, so they're going to have a tough go, but they've been playing unreal. Like, under the new head coach, they're 15-4-1 with a plus 15 goals differential. So they've completely spun around the narrative with their team. But Tampa's making the playoffs. To me, Tampa, they're making the playoffs. They just have that pedigree. They've got the goaltending. They've got the coaching. As long as they don't have a key injury to either Kucherov, Point, Hedman, or McDonough, they're making playoffs. Now, whether they're a wild card or a third in the Atlantic, I think that is up for grabs. But I'll go with Tampa Bay. 100% is my top team of all the bubbles that I think will make it. I'm going to give a vote of confidence to my guys. I think Ottawa's played it well enough in long enough stretches this year that they should be, if we're doing it like over or under 50% making it, I think Ottawa would be on the side. They're more likely to make the playoffs than miss. And look, my heart wants to say Columbus, but no Kirill Marchenko for a while. Zach Werenski's out. Who knows how long? Sean Monahan's out. Like, that's a lot of key players for an already thin team. So I'm not going to say Columbus. I'm not going to say Detroit. I don't think Boston either. They're so bad on the road. I'm going to go with the New York Rangers, Mikey. I'm going to go with the New York Rangers. I think their goaltending's stabilized here. Shesterkin had a tough start. And they obviously are pushing their chips in after the JT Miller trade. I don't think they're done adding either. I think we're going to see another move there. And I think they sneak in as the final wild card team.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, man. Like I'll support your Sens. I think that this is the year they finally get in there. I'm hoping we see, a 2-3 matchup, Sens, Leafs, Battle Ontario round 1. So I'll take the Sens. I think Tampa, and I'm with you on the Rangers. So I think we're pretty well in lockstep.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what you think about the Eastern Conference and just how wild it is. Let's get to the final break and then a quick segment on Four Nations roster questions. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You need last-minute tickets. You want them at the lowest prices, so go to Game Time and get fired up for your next event, whether it's sports, comedy, theater. They've got Game Time picks that filters out the fluff and only shows you incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I use it when I go to every game. I'm going March 1st, Sens, Sharks. I'll be using Game Time to get my tickets. The super deals are equally impressive, offering the best value at the event. The app's features like seat views before you buy and all-in pricing with no surprise fees make the experience smooth and reliable. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Welcome back, Locked On NHL, your team every day. Got so fired up talking playoffs, went a little long there, but we do have some news that came out while that happened. So, with that said, what's going on with the Four Nations? We've already seen Alex Pietrangelo pull out saying, hey, I just want to be ready for the rest of my season. But now we're seeing injuries. I already talked about Zach Werenski, and now Rick Tocchet mentioning that Quinn Hughes will not travel to San Jose for their next game. He's been playing hurt the last while, too. Like, what do you think the chances are that he skips out on this tournament? He wants to play with his brother, too.
Oh, he's going to want to play for sure, and he's one of the best players on the planet, so it would suck for the sport of hockey to not have him there. But, I mean, if you're not healthy enough to play games for your club, like, you shouldn't be out there lacing it up for Team USA. And I'm going to say the exact same thing for Mitch Marner, who missed the game last night against Calgary. Now, he's expected to play tomorrow in Seattle, but if he doesn't, I think the same conversation pops up. If you're not healthy enough to play club games for the Leafs, you certainly shouldn't be playing for Team Canada at the Four Nations. If you got something that's banged up, take that 2 weeks to rest up. I know it's exciting to be able to play for your country, to play a best-on-best tournament, but honestly, it's not the Olympics, so it should not mean as much to you realistically. For these players that are battling through injury right now, they certainly, if they're not willing to do it for the club, they should not be willing to do it for the country. Like I don't know, man. If I'm Quinn Hughes, if I'm Mitch Marner, and I'm the fan bases of those teams, I'm probably weary of them going out and re-aggravating an injury if they can't play.
Yeah, we're dealing with that in Ottawa as well with Linus Ullmark. He missed 43 days, came back and played well last night, but it's like, we don't want him going to get hurt. He and Sens fans have long memories. In 2006, Dominic Hasek got hurt at the Olympics and never played for them again. and pretty much cost them their best chance at a cup. They had Zdeno Chara on that Sens team. They had Alfie, Spezza, Heatley. Like, that was their best opportunity, and they had to go with a 22-year-old rookie in goal because Dominik Hasek went to an international tournament and got hurt. So I think that if you're a team, and just ask the Islanders in 2014 where John Tavares breaks his leg at the Olympics, like, it's a win for the fans getting to see McKinnon with McDavid and all that, but is it worth plummeting your NHL season for?
If you're healthy, yeah. If you're healthy, there's no reason not to. The problem is these players we're talking about, the Hughes, the Marners, the Werenskis, like, they're not healthy. That's the problem. Like, that's where I think you have to sit back and really ask yourself, is it worth going and potentially re-aggravating something that I'm not willing to play for today? Why am I going to be willing to play in a week from now through that injury? I don't know. I would be questioning if those players ended up going to the tournament personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, that takes a huge chunk out of Team USA's defense, though, if there's no Werenski and no Hughes.
Yeah, they got a lot of blue liners, though. They'll be okay.
Yeah, Jake Sanderson, NHL's third star of the week. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets a call. He's been playing unreal hockey of late on a 6-game point streak right now. And I think Big Head Hockey just did a little tweet on him. Let's see what they got for him.
Oh, he's been unbelievable.
Jake Sanderson's on pace for 54 points this year. Right now, he's 14th among points for defensemen, and his 11 speed bursts of more than 22 miles an hour is second in the league behind Cale Makar. He's also got 113 blocks, 8 points last week, 22 years old. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. Did you see his goal against Nashville, though? The footwork on him? Sick. But this can be a great tournament any way you slice it, and we will still have top-end talent no matter who steps down due to injury. That's it for us today. We'll pass it over to Thursday on Locked On NHL. For Mike DiStefano, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, your team every day.